Hey everyone, it's Adam Tracy, and Anjouan had such great success selling banking licenses that they decided to start selling gaming licenses. And even though I'm still having difficulty locating it on a map, I know a lot of people are interested in it because of its low cost, just like the banking license and the ease of getting it, right? So Anjouan doesn't have any minimum capital requirements. There is a fee, obviously, to apply, which depending on the year and the type of license, can be roughly 10,000 to 17,000, and that is like effectively what your annual cost to renew the license is. And of course, you have to incorporate an IBC there, which is a couple $1,000s. So minimum cost, right? And the best way to evaluate like the benefits, the efficacy of the license is to compare it to three things: unlicensed environment, Costa Rica, which is that mid licensed environment, and then like an Isle of Man, which has a traditional license. So let's start with a comparison versus unlicensed. Anjouan, yes, it's a license. Yes, there's like some degree of regulatory oversight. Yes, there is some kind of process, albeit 3 to 4 weeks. Is it better than saying you're unlicensed? In my mind, yes. It's mostly window dressing, right? But it's better than just saying you're operating out of the Marshall Islands with no license, right? And the one similarity between the unlicensed environment and the Anjouan license is that you're not going to get direct payment rails, right? Whether it be banking or especially payment processing. So it almost always requires the creation of a payment agent company or using a payment agent company. Typically, I say you create your own, right? And typically this is done like through Cyprus or another place similar to that, where you can get the payment rails and that payment agent company stands alone and basically just acts as the conduit through which payments come to and from Anjouan. Now, if you're running a crypto-based casino, none of this really matters, but you still need operational banking to some degree, and that's kind of where you stand. Now, comparing it to Costa Rica. Costa Rica, it's a quasi-license. It is a license. You have to get it. You have to pay for it. But it really doesn't have any regulatory oversight once you get it. There's renewal and all that. And in Anjouan, they at least play the game that there is like a fit and proper test for officers and directors. There is some level of like, description of the proposed operations of the casino or sports book or both that you have to put forth that you don't have to in Costa Rica. And then there's an additional step, which is more akin to like a traditionally licensed environment where you have to do like RNG certificates, right? Which are like these probity audits, meaning like the code that's embedded in the games prove that the games are fair. Like think of slots, right? And for the most part, you're going to outsource those from gaming providers. They'll give you those. And in addition to those RNG certificates, you have to obviously show copies of like the arrangement or contract that you have with the game providers, right? So that's really the only like extra step. It's not terribly much, but it's part of it, right? Now comparing it to Isle of Man. Well, Isle of Man and others like it, it's a comprehensive review. It'll take months, right? And the ongoing, regulation is consistent. The fit and proper tests are more significant. The AML KYC protocols are more significant. The ongoing review and the ability to be audited by the gaming regulator is a real thing. Whereas in Anjouan, you sort of get the license. As long as you pay the fee, they don't really care. The only thing that Anjouan is really, I don't want to say vigilant, because that's not the word I'd ever use in relation to Anjouan, but they are somewhat keen to make sure that you're not operating in the US, Australia, France, Germany, because of obviously the legal entanglements there, but the rest of the world is sort of fair game, right? And that's an Anjouan rule more than anything else. Obviously, the US, you always want to stay away from, but that's sort of the thing. So how do I look at it? Well, for the low barrier to entry, right, it's better than being unlicensed, because you're still going to have to create that payment agent structure. And, like I've said countless times on this channel, it's all about, especially when you're coming out the gate as a new casino, sportsbook, what have you, it's all about like brand equity and reputation. So to make this like rather small investment, and live under that license for some period of time, it's very keen. Because like even you compare it to Costa Rica, which has been in the offshore gaming, it was the first real offshore gaming, epicenter. It still carries a greater cachet than Anjouan does, right? The license has been called into question and this, that, and the other, but the reality is they're almost on par, right? I think Anjouan may slowly eclipse it, and obviously you're dealing with a different part of the world, right? That may be more akin to, onboarding with an Anjouan licensee, and plus all the payments are going to run through like a Cyprus payment agent anyway. So that's like something to really consider, but I think it's a good footprint. And I beat this horse to death a million times. Where you start from a licensing perspective is never where you end, right? If this is going to be something that takes off and is going to be successful, you're not going to stay licensed in Anjouan. You could, but you're not going to, because eventually, like, you're going to look at it and the payment agent thing, it's too much, right? So it's like you can take that, you can take a demonstrable track record, and then go to a Gibraltar or Malta, Guernsey, wherever, and like point to the fact that you were successful, that you were a legitimate operator, and go from there. So that's my take. Hit me up if you have any questions. Adam@adamtracy.io. I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.